A midlife crisis is more than just a cultural stereotype. It's a real psychological struggle that can surface between the ages of 40 and 60. Often triggered by aging, loss, or unmet expectations, it can actually lead individuals to question their identity, make impulsive choices, or abruptly abandon long term commitments. While not officially classified yet as a mental illness, the emotional and relational fallout is very real, especially for the spouses and families left behind. This podcast gives voice to those living through the aftermath, exposing the hidden pain, and seeking accountability, healing, and understanding. Thank you for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. The stories and events discussed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or professional advice. Any names, locations, or identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. Any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, or real events are purely coincidental. The information presented on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with a qualified expert regarding any decisions related to your specific situation. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the podcast creators. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. Today we are going to meet Stacy, and that's not her real name, but she's going to go by Stacy today, and she's going to tell us about her situation. And so anyway, Stacy's going to take it away. Hi, Stacy. Good morning.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. So you guys, I think you knew your spouse since you were younger, like high school, and you guys had dated, then went separate ways, then got together again, and eventually got married.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I met him when I was about 15 on New Year's Eve. My sister actually was kind of dating his friend, and the friend brought my now ex over. And I was a freshman in high school. And we basically start dating shortly after that, as much as a 15-year-old can date. And then we date on and off for the next 15 years. We married when in my late 20s. He had moved it right out of college, and I stayed in the working and starting a career. And then finally, I moved down there. We were married quickly and started having kids. We have two young adult kids now.
Mhm.
We were married for 23 years.
Mhm.
So we got pregnant very quickly after being married. So we didn't have much of a life of married before kids. Our daughter came almost 9 months to the day of our wedding. She knows that. I wasn't pregnant on my wedding, but was pregnant quickly after. And going forward, he worked a lot. I turned into being basically a stay-at-home mom for most of it. I'm college educated and did do some subbing when the kids went to school, and part-time work on and off. But for the most part, he would work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. most of our whole marriage. And then in 2017, when our daughter had just graduated from college, we actually do flood in a hurricane and lose our home. Our daughter goes off to college. And then the next couple years of our son's high school career, a little bit crazy. And then he goes off to college right about the time that our daughter is getting done with college. And now it's 2020, it's COVID. And that's when things start spiraling out of control. Mhm.
With the flood, did you lose your entire home?
Yes and no.
Like, did you have to move out of your home?
Yes. So we moved out of our home for about 6 to 7 months. We were lucky that we had some rental properties at the time that nobody was living in. So we went and lived in our rental property for that time. That's why our son ends up changing high schools. But the whole bottom level was destroyed, and we rebuilt it. We did not have flood insurance, so we rebuilt it ourselves, and then we moved back into it. But it took a long time, and my now ex, he did speak Spanish and we were very lucky that he was able to talk to the workers to get done what we wanted to get done. And we had enough money to be able to build it back. It was hard financially, mentally, but we did build it back and moved back into our marital home. Mhm.
Okay. And that was around by the time it was built, was that like 2019? That
So
was
now
before.
now it's 2018,
Oh,
2019. Yes, and, his mother had died about that time. He was not in contact with her. He hadn't spoke to her in over 20 years, and our kids never met her. Uh,
wow.
mm-mm. She had some mental illness, and, he had cut her out of his life.
Wow.
Yes. Mhm. Which is, I guess, ironic that he ends up cutting his wife and daughter out shortly after also.
Yeah, that's interesting. Was his mom still with his dad?
No. So they had divorced, when
Mm.
he was in his early teens, and his dad married another woman in his late teens, and they are still
Oh,
married to this day, those 2.
okay.
And that's who my kids know as their grandmother and their grandfather, and I call her my mother-in-law, but it is my ex-husband's stepmom. It was never really his mom since he was in his late teens at the time.
Mhm. That's interesting that his birth mother had, a form of mental illness. Do you know what it was?
Yes, it was bipolar, and I had a psychiatrist call me one time just in the middle of our marriage and wanted to talk. A psychiatrist had called me and wanted to talk to my ex-husband about it, that his mother wanted to get in contact with him and work it out, and I had said, "Take it slow," because he doesn't wanna have anything to do with her, and, the psychiatrist said she was one of the most severe bipolars he's ever worked with.
Wow, wow. Poor thing. Do you guys happen to know if anybody prior to her had it? If it was genetic?
I don't know about his family. I know that it does run in families, but
Yeah,
I don't know about their family. He
and
never
when you
he
look at
never
it
let
now.
he would never let us talk about it.
Right.
We were
Sort of
never
pushed it under the carpet.
always.
Mhm.
And my kids knew that too. They knew that they weren't supposed to talk about any mental illness. We couldn't
Wow.
watch movies about mental illness, nothing.
That's pretty
Yes.
strict, you
He was
know?
always very strict about that. Like, if you came in a door, you had to lock it behind you.
Hmm.
Mm, this is just a story that I don't know why I remembered about this one, but for example, I remember I went to Target one day and I got a text message from him that said, "Just so you know, the garage door opener is a garage door closer too." And he was home. And I remember putting on social media, "My wonderful husband just told me that my garage door opener is a garage door closer too, so I bought all 3 pairs of shoes I was looking at." It did not go well. But no, he was strict about that. He was also strict, I tell people, about me and my daughter's safety. Um, he always talked about how he was wanna protect us, and we had to have nice cars because that was protection. Um, I always felt safe with him,
Yeah.
always.
He
That's how I felt, very safe with him. He was a large man, not fat in any way, no fat at
right,
all.
right. Just a
Uh,
big guy and
I mean, literally
protective.
very and played college football, everything, and was protective of us. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm. I felt
Wow. It
protected.
makes you think that there must have been, for somebody to be that, cautious about safety or locking the doors and all that, it makes you wonder what he went through when he was younger, which obviously he wouldn't talk about.
No. I know some things because I knew him since he was 15, so I saw it
Oh,
happening.
yeah.
But, I have read a lot about childhood trauma. Now, I don't give him a pass on it.
Mhm.
I believe that we all had some kind of childhood trauma, maybe not as severe as others. But at the end of the day, I believe you have to man up,
Uh-huh.
especially if you have kids, and if you had a bad childhood, then you have to work through that in some way so you don't have this generational cycle that keeps going on that I can see it gonna happen in his it did happen in our lives. Mhm.
Right.
It happened. Yeah.
So
We were
we've
and we
got
are both college educated. Like I said, he had a good job. We weren't economically disadvantaged. We were doing what we thought was right.
Mhm.
Conservative values. We went to church every weekend.
D Definitely the average, MLC family, you know?
Exactly what it was. I'm classic. I tell people classic, typical, everything I read, we hit it.
Uh, okay.
So COVID starts, and then this is 2020. Our son is a 2020 grad from high school. So he was a football player. I know lots of people will say, "Well, my husband was really into football." My husband was so over the top with it. It's painful to look back on now, and he really wanted our son to play college football like he did. So we go into he actually ends up, selling his business. And I say it that way because looking back now, I don't really think the business got sold. Just the building did. And it was a large building and we made, significant money on it. But the business was never sold, but that's what I was told.
Mhm.
And this is when I really do think that the fair is starting now. I don't know this, and I'm encouraging the sell of the business. I'm encouraging this, thinking, our son's gonna graduate from high school, he's gonna go off to play college football, we'll be able to go watch all the games. You know what? We're going straight into empty nesting, and we've got it covered. I'm
Yeah.
encouraging this world. So our son goes into a senior football year, and it was good. Some things happen, of course, it's sports, normal things. And then he goes to college, and he is, in the dead of COVID, and he's playing football, and they're testing him a lot, and he's testing positive a lot. So my husband basically has moved into my sister's house because she lived in the city that my son was living in and has left me. But I don't know this. I believe he's being the best dad ever.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's hanging out with our son who's in what did they call it at the time? Isolation, whatever.
Oh, right, right. Uh-huh.
I believe he's the best dad ever, and he's going up to include our son and entertain him while he's, not able to go to classes because he's tested positive for COVID, even though he was never sick. But I believe the affair now looking back, I believe the affair is going on and I am left. And I'm
Mm.
still encouraging this. So by this time, then my sister's like,
And
"Why?"
let me roll back to, the affair. Was it an emotional affair with somebody far away, or was that woman in the same area as your sister?
No, she lived in a whole nother state far away.
Oh, okay. But because he was at your sister's, he could go in his room and be on the phone and stuff like that?
Or go there because my sister wasn't monitoring him. She didn't know.
Oh,
She didn't care.
okay. Yeah.
So I don't know where he was, and neither does
Wow.
she. She knows
Right.
he was there on and off. And like one
And
night
he's letting you believe that you guys are still happily married.
I I was totally clueless. My
Wow.
life was going on as normal. I was
Mhm.
totally clueless because, like I
So
said, I was
sorry.
basically a stay-at-home mom, so COVID didn't affect me. I didn't have to leave a job. Lots of
Right.
people leave a job and come home. I was already happy with being at home. I had dealt with that many years ago. I
Mhm.
was actually happy COVID that everybody was home. I was happy that they were all there. It was working out for me. But then eventually my sister says, "You really can't stay here anymore. Stacy's upset, and you got to go home." So he comes home, and now he really starts changing. Where he's waxing his eyebrows. He is his whole new wardrobe. He's gone hours on end. I ask him where he is. He's at Lowe's. He's at the grocery store. He's at the sporting goods store. Hours and hours he's gone. And now I'm questioning him. And now I'm telling people, I think he's having an affair. I think he's having an affair. And people are calling me crazy. You are crazy. I don't really think I'm crazy, but it does feel like I'm crazy. And
You
then,
know what? You were listening to your intuition.
oh, yeah, I knew. I tell people, if you think your husband's having an affair, he is.
Mhm.
And I was going through things, the file cabinets, his briefcase. This is not the person I was. I 100% trusted my husband. I never went through his things. I just didn't care. I trusted him.
Yeah.
But now I am. Now I'm frantic. And then he's locking cabinets. He's moving things to a safe deposit box. I don't ever know if he does get a new cell phone, but he changes his password.
Mhm.
He holds it onto him like glue. Again, classic things that men of having affairs do. And I'm classic of women who's trying to catch him.
Mhm.
I think at one of the spots calls it, um, what do they call it? pain shopping.
Oh, yeah, pain shopping.
Yes, I'm pain shopping. I'm looking for things. And I eventually find lots of things, but by this time I haven't found anything. And January of 2021, we go down to sit at the bar for dinner. And we never sit at the bar. That's not something we ever did. And when we sat down, he said to the bartender very quickly, "This is my wife." And I remember thinking, "Well, that's weird because duh, I'm your wife. We've been here a million times. Why would you say that?" But I just thought, well, maybe he really wants to introduce me tonight. And then more and more and more things like that keep happening. Um, do you want to go somewhere with me? Yes, I'll meet you there. Hours later, he would show up. Things that never happened. We always went together. um, then February of 2021, knowing back, he went to the state that she lives in, but he told me it was for work. And again, he traveled a lot, so I don't think much about it. I do know now, and this is one of the only things he ever does admit to, he didn't see her on that trip, but I don't know it at the time. March of 2021, we go on a trip with our daughter, and my daughter does tell me, "Dad is just texting all the time. He's texting and texting and texting." I'm like, "Well, that's weird. Who's he texting? We're all here." But, obviously her. But I don't know. I'm clueless. And then things really start spiraling out of control when we get back. I mean, he's doing really crazy things. Like one night he grilled like 70 onions and we had to be somewhere. And I was like, what? What? We got to go. And then, like, we were talking to my boss one night. And he says to my boss, "Doesn't my wife have a nice ass?"
Oh my god. Do you have a male or female boss?
A male whose
Oh
wife had just died. And we were
my
there to help. And this is nothing that my husband would have ever said about me. Never would have be embarrassed either one of us like that. Never.
yeah.
And even I still talk to that man to this day, and he said it was very uncomfortable. And that's when that guy knew.
Wow.
He actually he ends up helping me a lot. He's an older gentleman. Um, and then he embarrasses our daughter in a theater production once. Then
This is it sounds like he was mentally regressing.
so that's one of the stages, replay.
Uh-huh.
And mine goes crazy into replay eventually. Like he starts partying with our son who's in college. He gets so drunk with some 20-year-old girls one night that he takes all of his clothes off, pees on the floor, and sits in it for 20 minutes. Eh, yeah, my ex-husband wouldn't
Wait, wait, let me just back up. We gotta get a visual of this.
yeah,
He took off all his clothes. Were the girls there?
no.
Oh.
So I had finally went and got him.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that he was out that late. I was asleep, and I went and got him. I brought him home. Um, and I was like, "What? Where were you? What were you doing? Why are you so drunk?" And, kind of pushing me. Actually, that's the first night he cocks back to hit me. Yeah, because but I was kind of pushing him saying, "Are you okay?" I was
Yeah.
so worried that he was so drunk. I was kinda shaking him awake. I'm thinking, "Do I need to take you to the hospital?" I'd never seen anybody that drunk in my life.
Wow.
And, he cocks back to hit me, like, "Stop pushing me around." And I was like, "Okay." And he's a big man. Like I said, I was very small. Um, and then eventually he just takes all of his clothes off and he kneels down on the side of the bed. He pees. We did have wood floors, and he sits in it. And I remember thinking,
Wait, you're in your bedroom
yes.
and he takes off all his clothes, like, you would think, like, maybe he's gonna get in bed and
Well,
go to sleep.
actually, weren't in our bedroom. We were in a hotel room. That's a whole nother
Oh,
story.
hotel room. Wait, in that
Yeah, we
hotel
were
room.
on a trip.
Oh, okay, wait. So that
That gets
hotel
us
room
out of
had
that's why he
had
was partying with the 20-year-olds, kinda like spring break time.
oh, okay. Oh, well, yeah, everybody on spring break pees on the floor and sits in it.
Not
Isn't
when
that
you're
what you're
50.
supposed to do?
Not when you're 50.
So, oh my god, and you're sitting there and you're watching him going, "Wait, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So and it's the weirdest part about that whole thing, our son, his girlfriend, and my parents were with us on that trip.
At the same hotel?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the next morning, I pack up my parents and I say, "We're out of here. We got to go." And he had been horrible. Anyway, he'd been horrible that trip. And we leave. And then he gets back and he does tell me, "Well, it wasn't my finest moment." That's how he put it. Wasn't my finest moment. I'm like, okay.
Wow. Does he
Uh,
realize what he did?
I don't know.
Did you take any photos or video of what he how long did he sit in this pee floor
About
issue?
about 10 minutes. He was
Wow.
just passed out. He was passed out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's funny that you asked that if I took pictures because this actually comes a few months after this. That was in May, and by August, I filed for divorce. So things escalate quickly in this meantime. But after I filed for divorce and everything does start coming out, him and the girlfriend, I have a lot of pictures now, naked ones of her, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this word, pictures of him. I have all this documented now, and I'm collecting it all because I know it's a full blown affair. I know. And they make me sign an affidavit that I won't show the pictures to anybody. And I do it because I'm scared to death. I mean, I'm losing everything. I'm losing my whole entire life. I'm shattered. I'm destroyed. I'm, I called it what was going on in my head an egg beater. Like it was just spinning crazy. I didn't
Uh-huh.
know what I was doing. So I signed the affidavit that I won't show the pictures to anybody. Um, because I remember asking my lawyer, I said, "Now I know I can't show the pictures to anybody, like, and cyberbully them or whatever, but
Uh-huh.
can I talk about it?" And he said, "You can talk about it all you want. That's not illegal." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I always try to tell people, I can't show them pictures of, what I saw, but
Mhm.
I can talk about it. That's not illegal. I can always say the truth. My lawyer said there's nothing wrong with telling the truth. And I don't like also when people say, "Just say your truth." I'm not saying my truth. I'm saying the truth. And I also want people to know is I'm not perfect. Was I a bad wife? He told me I was. At the end, he never said it during our marriage, but at the end I was awful. And I'm going to click off some of the things that he said of why we had to get divorced. Um, I got out of the truck too slow. I made chicken and rice too often, and the chicken was dry. I had affairs with Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson. Those are the Fox News guys. Mhm. I, um, I had too much hair on the bathroom floor, looked like a cat's been shaved every day. That had always been that way. I mean, it wasn't just the last few months of our marriage.
Yeah.
I have a lot of dark hair. I went to bed too early, and not only going to bed too early is he told me that was breaking vows. I never kissed him for 20 years, of course, no affection, that whole scene. Um, I'm trying to think of some of the other things that he said. The
Well, there
list
you go.
yeah,
It
the
took
list goes on.
23 years for him to even bring this to your attention.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like a normal
23 years.
person would
Yeah,
say after, 2 weeks of, any of those things, like, "Hey, could you make the chicken a little different?" Or, "Get should we get a different car? Do we need to add a step thing on the truck?" Um,
it's funny
something.
you say that
You
too
don't
because
sit
now
around for 23 years.
I hang out with my sister a lot now, and,
Uh-huh.
we're identical twins. We do a lot of things together, and she does tell me, "You're a terrible cook, and you do get out of the truck slow." I'm like, "But even if that's not grounds for divorce."
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Aw.
Apparently that all that is true. I did do those things. My chicken is dry. Yeah. And I tell people I can laugh about it now. Obviously, it's 2025. Most of this all went down in 2021 and 2022. I can laugh about it now, but I don't want anybody to be fooled. It's a very difficult journey. Very difficult journey. This takes away your self-esteem. This takes away your self-worth. This takes away your confidence. And you don't just get to say, "Oh, poof, it's back." That doesn't happen. And I did do therapy. I I did go back to school. I'm a nurse now. I'm working as a nurse. I love it. Um, but the heartache And the problems, what I call the nonsense, is right under the skin 24/7. It never really leaves you. You do learn to live with it,
Mhm.
but you don't like it. I know there are women out there that say I'm having so much fun and this is the best thing that could have ever happened to me and I'm better off. That's not how I feel. I feel left behind. The word left behind spouse is very relevant to me. I also feel like my kids have been hurt. My kids have been hurt terribly. And any mother knows if you hurt their child, their claws are out.
Mhm.
And you never forget that person that hurt your kids. And not only did their dad hurt them, this other woman hurt them terribly also. And I don't know how, I would never want to do that to somebody else's kids,
How
never.
how did she hurt them?
The other woman,
Uh-huh.
well, besides having an affair with their dad, um,
I mean, have they met her, seen her,
so my daughter has not. Our
Uh-huh.
son has. And not only that, but 2 summers ago, in the summer of 2023, we were on a trip for my niece's wedding. And long story short, I was using my son's phone to, help my sister's grandkids. They were 2. They wanted to watch a video, so I just grabbed my son's phone. He wasn't there, and I turned on a video on their phone for him. And I read all these messages from the other woman on my son's phone. And my son and her, who my son was 20 years old at the time, they're saying how much they love each other. Yeah, he
Wait,
was,
wait.
yeah.
She is actively dating his father sort of at the
Yeah,
time.
they're no, my his father and her are living together.
At that time.
Yes.
And she's telling your 20-year-old son that she loves him?
Yes, he calls her mama. There's hearts. She's asking him to come do lunges with her at the gym.
Ew.
Yeah. Can't wait to see you. We're going to Vegas together. We're gonna have a great time. And my husband and her had gone to Vegas together while we were married, and I knew about the trip. I did not know she was there. So it is a thing that she does, I know.
Wow.
And I did talk to my therapist about it and my lawyer, and they said there's, again, nothing you can do because your son is 20, but they do say that because she's 50 and he was 20, it didn't come on immediately. So I don't know when it started with that. I don't know. My son didn't tell me, he doesn't talk about it. Um, but I tell you, I do bawl my eyes out about it. I don't want him calling anyone else mom besides
Mhm.
me. Um, my therapist did say that's some pedophilia tendencies. That could be. She goes, there's nothing we can do because of his age, but I want you to know a 50-year-old woman doesn't go after 20-year-olds.
Except
Well, yeah, she said she sees it more with men, but she rarely sees it with women.
except in midlife crisis.
I've
And
never
they
met I've
your
never met this woman. I've never seen her in person. I don't know anything about her. So
your
I don't.
ex and her might have been both in MLC and been attracted to each other.
Maybe.
Wow.
I don't
And
know.
does this woman is she divorced with children of her own?
So their divorce was final about the same time ours was.
Uh-huh.
I had been told she wasn't married. Again, that was a lie. Um, I do know one time that I was supposed to be going down for a mediation and it did not go well. And it had to end because of my behavior. I didn't have good behavior. And
Oh, they're so sensitive sometimes.
I called him a bad name in the middle of it, and they
Oh,
said they had to end it, and I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because of what you called him." And I said, "Well, he is that." And they said, "Well, now we have to." I said, "So wait a minute. He can do all these things to me, but calling him a bad name is where we draw the line." I wish I would have known that before. But anyway, in the meantime, I think that I ruined their little, "Hey, I'm divorced," because I think he was ready to go to celebrate our divorce final. But because of my behavior in the middle of it, it didn't happen. And I can't prove any of that, but I think that they were ready to go celebrate their 2
huh.
divorces.
So they
Mm.
didn't get to.
No, because I
Alright, that's a little karma hint.
Yeah, yeah, let's look at it that way. It was a little karma hit for me.
Oh my gosh. That
Mhm.
that's a whole 'nother thing, the whole family court and, to hear that that happened in mediation, that, the spouse that's really doing the stuff that's wrong is not held accountable whatsoever, and you say one little bad word, which is accurate fact, probably, and you're called out on that, That's crazy. But you know what we didn't talk about, Stace, is, when you filed, I think you said you went to your sister's. And what was that like? That's a big step for you at 23 years to make that decision. That's a real big step.
It was horrible, and I went into what I call the mute stage, and I just sat on her couch for probably 6 weeks, dying. And she knew, like I said, we're identical twins, so she knew, and she would say, "Where's my sister? Where's my sister?"
Wow.
And, I couldn't talk, eat, move. I did nothing for 6 weeks. I did find Zoloft and Xanax, and it takes a long time to kick in. It took a long time to kick in for me, almost 2 months.
Mm.
And when it did, I started getting better. I was able to think through some processes like getting a bank, getting a credit card, getting car insurance, health insurance. All these things are stripped away from you overnight. And I couldn't even get a place to live. I didn't have a job. And I didn't get any alimony either. So because he had quit his job, I get no alimony. I got half of our savings. He likes to tell people it's a ton of money. I don't know what everyone considers a ton of money. It's enough to live on. I tell people till next week. Will it last me if I live to 105? I don't know. I don't know how long I'm going to live. But like I said, I'm working now. But after I come out of my stage at my sister's house, um, I still think he's going to call me and say, "I want to work this out. I love you." I still think that.
Mhm.
That's not what happened. He never, ever says that. Ever. He says the opposite. I
And
want,
wait, while you're at your sister's, is he at your marital home?
yes. Yes. At that time, he was. Yeah. When the divorce becomes final 6 months later, then is when he moves to the state that she lives in. Yeah. But he stays in that marital home. Yeah. Yeah, I do one night he did call and say I needed to come home because he missed me and seeing my clothes in the closet makes him, hurt. He did do that one night, but by the next morning so maybe he was drunk again that night. He had been drinking heavily. Then it was, "I want divorced." Bleh, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and I don't know if he's drinking now or not. Like I
Mhm.
said, I've been no contact basically for 2 years. Um I have sent him an email or 2 reminding him of his nonsense, but I haven't done it in a long time. I've read a lot about should you be nice, should you be mean, should you go no contact? I just tell people they have to do what they think is best for them.
Mhm.
Mm, mhm.
So you're in another state, and recognizing that, you know what, he's not supporting you financially, so you get a
No.
job and
Yep.
your own place. And then do
Well,
you go back to your marital home to sell it, get your things or anything like that?
yes, so we sold our marital home and the, rental homes that we had, and I get that money, and, when I did go back to clean my stuff out, he had thrown all my things away. He said I didn't move out properly. And when I say all my things, I mean our Christmas trees, the ornaments the kids had made, my cheerleading uniforms from high school, everything was gone.
All the sentimental stuff.
Everything. He had taken our wedding pictures and had shredded them, videoed him shredding them, and sent me the videos.
He made a video of himself shredding,
Yes, our wedding
wedding
photos.
photos.
Yep.
That's sort of, what did they call it? Destruction of personal property, which
I
is
wish
considered illegal.
they were his too, though. So he would
Mm,
just say, "Well, they were mine too."
yeah.
Did he ever even look at a wedding picture in the 23 years of marriage? I doubt it. That's not something he would have done. We had this gigantic wedding picture right before you walk into our bedroom. I promise you, he didn't even know it was there the whole time. Never once probably looked at it.
Oh.
Yeah, he did. So then in the meantime too, he ends up being very, very mean to our daughter. Our daughter hears him on a phone call in July of 2021, and she calls him out on his bad behavior and basically says, "It's either her or me. You can't be with another woman and have me in your life too." And he obviously picks the other woman, and him and our daughter are not in contact to this day. And he goes to town on her. He takes her car away. We had never changed it over to her name. She's out of college by this time. She's a teacher. He says he's going to call her principal and get her fired. Um, he's he has some of his friends attack her, not physically, but verbally. He
What do
sends
you
her.
mean and how? How does that happen? I
Uh,
mean, they're adults.
Yeah, they didn't care. They just said that you're being horrible to your dad and you need to
Yeah.
be respectful and
Respectful.
yeah. And I have to actually go down to get her car back to give to her because it's mine too. We bought the car for her. So the lawyer says, "You're able to come get it." She's not. So I have to buy another plane ticket of the money I don't have, go down there, help her get the car back. But it takes me a month to get that done. So she doesn't
Wait,
have.
where was the car when you
He
said he took?
parked he parked it in the driveway of our marital home.
Oh,
Yeah.
but she couldn't get it?
No, because he said she couldn't come to the house, and at the end of the
Oh,
day, it was in her name. It was in his name. He bought
gotcha.
it.
Yeah, he'd accuse her of theft or whatever.
Yep. So,
Wow.
but I could go because it was mine. We were married when we bought it, so it's mine, half mine.
Uh-huh.
Everything's half mine. Um, yeah. So and they still don't talk to this day. They haven't talked in 3 years. He does talk to our son. I tell people, but it is superficial, especially after I found out about the other woman. Um, did that get better? I don't know. I hope, I hope I put some pressure on them to leave my son out of their nonsense, but I don't know. I know my son does go visit his dad and I know they live together and I don't like it. That's one of the hardest parts for me now. When my son is visiting her, I don't care if my son visits his dad.
Uh-huh.
That I come to have peace with, sort of. But I don't like him with her.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
And your son and daughter, how's their relationship?
Strained. Strained. They get along when they see each other, but they're certainly not as close as they always were. Mm-mm.
And your daughter, I think, is getting married.
She's getting married in 3 weeks. Her dad is not invited. I don't know what he feels about that. Our son actually was supposed to be officiated, but and I don't know how all this went down. Again, you have to remember I'm always hearing things secondhand, but the dad came into town for the bridal shower and took our son golfing. And my son called her fiance and said, "Do you want to go golfing with me and my dad? If you do, don't tell my sister." So he got kicked out of officiating the wedding. So that's what I mean. The relationship is strained.
Well,
They're not honest with each other. And I think honesty is important in a relationship. Call me
mhm.
crazy.
Right.
Call me crazy.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
Yeah, and, considering the estrangement between your ex and his mom, you would think he'd really wanna avoid having his children and his family have estrangement issues going forward, you know?
And if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said that's exactly how we have run our life to make sure this
Exactly.
generational problem doesn't happen. And it came up. It,
Yep.
I know some people don't believe in midlife crisis. I know some psychologists don't believe in it. I 100% do.
Mhm.
I watched it happen. I was,
Exactly.
yes, I had a front row seat to this. Mhm. The other thing that happened as I'm gone and moving on with my life that a therapist had helped me with recently is I was holding on to his pain for so long, but I didn't know it. I held on to his pain that I believe that he really is in. And so I would make excuses for him to the kids. Your dad still loves you. Even though all this happened, he still loves you, you know, and tried to convince them that. Do I believe that? I don't believe, no, I don't believe that's what love is. That's not love. That's abuse.
Mhm.
And I believe we have to separate them. Uh, I don't want my daughter to ever be in a marriage to think that's what love is.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one reason I left. Number one, I left because I knew I would never trust him again.
Mhm.
I knew every single time he walked out that door, I would have to wonder where you going and who you seeing. Never, ever could I have gotten that out of my head. And he knows that too. I also left because I would have and it's kind of sexist, I think, to say because I didn't have my son in mind when I did this. I didn't want my daughter to, I wanted my daughter to see me being strong. Was I strong? No. I crashed and burned. Like I did everything wrong. I did everything you are not supposed to do. I begged, I pleaded, I cried, I did everything wrong. But then I started doing it right. Again, do I still do things wrong? Yes. Do I still say bad things about their dad? Yes. Are you supposed to do that? No. That just what I'm that person.
Sounds like you're human and real. You know what? That's the thing, Stacy. You're authentic. And your kids are
Mm,
seeing your authenticity. They're seeing the good, the bad, because that's I think that's a really important side for them to see that you're a full person so they can be a full person too, you know? Does
I
that make
you know,
sense?
I absolutely I hope that's what's happening. I know that my son came to me one day and said, um, this is about probably a year and a half after, so I was starting to improve. He had been down visiting his dad for most of the summer and came back and said, "Mom, you are doing so much better and everybody is happy to see it." So I was giving off some kind of vibes that I was doing better. And he did notice. So I was glad about that. Yeah.
That's
That they
really good.
and my daughter has told me recently, "Mom, you're thriving." That's the word she used.
Oh, good.
Again, if you internally, it's not how I feel.
Mhm.
Externally, I'm just going on with my life. There was
You know
no
what?
other choice.
Yeah, it's like that,
Else.
what they say, "Fake it till you make it," you know?
I guess I said something, but I'm not faking my life. I
No,
feel
but
like
you're living forward. You're like, you're
I
putting
actually think maybe I was faking my marital life now that I
maybe
look back. Yeah. Maybe I was faking that more than I'm faking it now. This is me.
because you
Yeah,
didn't wanna get divorced, like,
correct.
during leading up to it if there were issues,
I never ever wanted to get divorced, not in the whole 25 years of, being down there with them. Never once did I want to get divorced. In fact, I think I was trying not to get divorced instead of trying to be married.
Mm,
I think those could be totally different things. I was doing everything I could to please him and my kids. I tell people I was 25 years trying to make my life perfect
mhm,
and everything crashed. I mean, 100% crashed. Nothing is the same.
yep.
Nothing. Mm-mm.
I think you said something to me at a different time, something I'm trying to remember how it went. It was, about the, like if you were at a party.
Yeah. So I tell people, they say, well, you had a good marriage for, this amount of time, but, there's no guarantees in life. People will
Mhm,
say, and I try to tell them, so let's say you're at a party and you had the best time at this party for hours and hours. It was the best party ever. And at the end, somebody came in and shot up and killed 5 people. Was it still the best party you've ever been at? Or did it get ruined at the end? And I think that you have to say the party was ruined and my party was ruined. And I can't look back on my married life and there are wonderful memories that I have, but now they're skewed. Now I have to think, when he was on a business trip, was he with another woman? When he was on a business trip, was he drunk out of his mind? Somebody should have been helping him. Um, he made my life a lie, and I don't know what's true and what isn't. I asked him one time. In fact, it was the time that I went down there to move my things out that was all gone. I said, "How many times did you cheat on me?" And he said, "0." And I said, "Well, see, that's the problem with cheaters. You can't ever be believed again." I'm like, I don't know.
Mhm.
There's no way, and there's no way to prove it.
Right, 'cause he's lost his integrity and credibility,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
There is none. I and I don't. I just know I could never have done that. I never once even thought about cheating on my husband. Never once. People are like, "Oh, come on, we've all thought about it." I'm like, "I didn't." I would have never, ever wanted to hurt my husband or my kids intentionally. Did I? Like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm sure some words I said or things that I did hurt people, but it was never intentional.
Mhm.
Never. Mm-mm. I'm not perfect, but I am not evil. And I believe what him and this other woman did is evil. I
Mhm.
believe it's sinful, and
Premeditated, manipulative, evil, selfish.
I believe it should be criminal.
I mean, well, exactly. I think it is civilly, criminal. I mean, there's coercive control in there, which is now illegal. So yeah, yeah.
My lawyer told me, and I would tell him that, he's yelling at me all the time. He's screaming at me. You have to remember too, during the very last few months of it, I was, I remember, so it's a story too. So the backyard neighbors overheard him screaming at me one night.
Mhm,
And they came and got me and said, "You have to come to our house. You're not safe." And I said, "No, no, 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 he's gonna be fine." It was fine. But I ended up going with them. And I remember sitting at their table and they said, "Are you hungry?" And I was like, "Yes." And they're like, "When was the last time you've eaten?" I'm like, I have no idea. It could be days. And then the lady said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I would like to go to sleep." Because I hadn't slept, again, maybe in a month, not all night. I
mhm.
was terrified.
Right.
I felt safe in their house. Like, I felt
Oh,
like I could actually go to a bed and sleep without worrying. And she took my phone away, but I didn't know she did. And I slept until the morning all night long. That was the first time I had slept in a very, very, very long time and eaten. And the next morning she said, "He's been texting all night." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I have to get back home." That's the mentality I was in.
wow.
In the meantime, also, he's starting to have a fallout with everybody. He has a big fallout with his dad. So this one July, so the month before I filed for divorce was very, very, very bad. Like I tell people, I haven't even told my therapist some of the things that happened in that July. Very, very bad. But we went to his dad's house and he started yelling at his dad, screaming, kind of trying to punch him and fight with his dad.
Mm,
And then he runs out the house, and I tell him, "Don't drive drunk," but he did. And, his dad looks at me and says, "What was that?" And I said, "Your son. Do you believe me now?" And he said, "Yes." And then his dad kinda helped me a lot get back on track, get my finances in order, help me get moved. They actually let
wow.
me stay there on and off. I stayed at their house sometimes too. Then they're nice to me still. I don't talk to them very much at all. They wanted me to stop fighting him and move on with my life quicker than I was ready to.
Mhm,
So they kind of stopped talking to me a little bit, which was fine because it was kind of awkward eventually to talk to my in-laws. Even though, like I said, I've known this man since I was 15 and I'm
mhm,
57 now. And he's been a part of my life ever since I can remember. And that's also hurtful to have holidays come and go and your kids are over at their grandparents' house and you're not invited. So now you have this world of we're going over to we're going over to these grandparents. You can't go entertain yourself. Holidays are hard. Yeah. Mm, I don't, I haven't liked any holidays yet.
Yeah. And it's horrible because this is never something you set out to have happen, you know?
No, I tell people, I set out for the opposite. I
Exactly.
set out to have a healthy marriage, and I got opposite. The only other thing I say, well, lots of things happened, but one of the things that happened is my dad died a year ago. And again, my husband has known my dad since he was 15 years old. My dad was a fabulous man, nice to a fault. And my ex did not come to the funeral, did not contact me, nothing. In fact, said to our son, I heard this through my son, he said, Dad said I have every right to be there. Not how's mom, how's the family, wish I could go. It was all about him. I have every right to be there.
Mhm.
My in-laws do come, and they were very pleasant at the funeral. Um, and that hurts too. And on June 30th of this month, I'm going to the court to change my name back to my maiden name. That's my next step in the journey.
Good for you.
Thank you. I have thought about it a lot because I have a son who has that last name. My
Uh-huh.
daughter's married and changing her name. And
Yeah.
as the words that I said, my dad was nice to a fault. I
Mhm.
would rather die my maiden name than the married name that he gave me. That is full of infidelity, lies, hurt. It's it's a daily reminder of who I'm not.
Mhm. Well, your husband may come out of this, um, in a few years, Sorry, your ex.
I've read a lot about when they come out of it, and
Mhm.
from what I've read says that there's 2 ways that they'll go. They'll come out of it and start to rebuild what they have destroyed, but that there's also, the person who is coming out of it, but can't rebuild, so they dig in deeper,
Mhm.
and there's no doubt in my mind he was always obsessed with something. Buying another house. 1 month it was eating bananas all month. 1 month it was, not Mucinex, Metamucil. He had to have Metamucil every day. There was buying another business, getting another employee. He had 3 businesses and 150 employees by the time he left the business. So it was always something was always he was always obsessed with. I called it the flavor of the month. Mhm. So I'm sure that he will dig in and not. He's very, very arrogant, very, very convincing. I've talked to therapists about it a lot, and I say, I promise you, if he was right here in this therapy session with me, he would believe you would believe I was crazy and he was fabulous.
It's crazy how they're so good at that.
Everyone says he would never be able to convince me.
Mhm.
I'm like, yes, he would. Yes, he would. Mhm. I know he
Well,
would.
Stacy, okay, so now you've, got a new career and you are independent, you're changing your name back. So,
Yes.
eh, w you know, uh, what do you see going forward? It sounds like, I mean, you are gorgeous and you are just, you've got a lot to look forward to, I think, in the future. And I'm so excited for your daughter. And, you know, in a few years, it sounds like you might be a grandmother. So there's a lot of fun stuff ahead, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. One of the things I used to always say is the word hope.
Mhm.
I would say, "Hope, postpone disappointment." That's how I called hope. And yeah, I hope I can, keep improving. I hope I can keep getting stronger. I am not on my antidepressants anymore. I don't take Xanax. I don't drink. I never did drink before, but uh I just try to live what I call a healthy life.
Mhm.
And yeah, I hope to keep improving. I Every day that goes by is helpful, and it's one of the things that I wish would be better because what's helped the very most is time. There was not one single thing that anybody said to me that made me feel better. I just would look at him and be like, I don't think you understand. Time has helped me. So
And we've always heard that, with grief, they say, time heals, and you don't really get it until, and it's too bad we can't rush time. You know,
correct. You can't rush time, nor can you go back in it.
that's right.
You have to sit in it.
You have
You
to
have
sit in it and go through it. Yeah.
you have to sit in the pain in that time,
Mhm.
and it sucks.
Yep.
It sucks.
But,
It's a
now you
horrible, horrible feeling to know that the person you trusted most in the world hurt you the worst.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Yep. It's one of the things I'd like to tell women who are just about to start this journey, who have found themselves in this nonsense is, I read a lot. They'll say, "But my husband's not having an affair." I'm like, "He probably is." We all thought that.
Mhm.
None of us have a unicorn. None of them are unicorns. If you think he is, he is.
Yep.
Mhm.
There's, a book that, I forgot the kind of grief they call it. Um, it's called Soul Broken.
I didn't read that one.
Yeah, yeah, oh, it's called Ambiguous Grief.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, Soul Broken. It's by Stephanie Sarrazin, and it's about ambiguous grief, and that is when, you know, the person you loved, you know what? I'll just read a little bit here. Grief isn't always the result of something finite, marking a death or a complete end. Soul shattering grief can also be activated by a dramatic shift in an important relationship, such as a divorce or significant breakup, a life changing medical diagnosis, or a broken connection with an addicted child. And this is like, how do we grieve people who are still alive, but no longer who they once were to us? And
Mhm.
then you add in the betrayal and the destruction to your life and all by the person you love the most?
Right.
Yeah. It's,
Mhm.
it is
Mhm.
unfathomable, you
It's
know?
unfathomable, and I tell people too, love didn't have a whole lot to do with it. Love wasn't the number one thing that I was missing. It was the trust.
Yeah, the trust and the partnership that you guys have built over the 23 years, 25.
Correct. The trust is what crushed me more than the love,
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, I know people would probably argue with me. I know my husband loves me and my daughter.
Mhm.
Love is easy. Trust is hard.
Right.
Yep.
He's not the person that you married, like, right now. So what does your therapist say about that, though? Like, 'cause it sounds like they're saying, to, not make excuses for his behavior and for who he is now.
Mostly my therapists don't wanna talk about him too much, they just wanna talk about me and
Mhm,
get me to a place where, I feel more comfortable in my own skin and what they call work on yourself. Yeah, that's where they go immediately, work on yourself, and then again, I try to flip it back to, "But he did this." And they're like, "No, no, 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 let's go back to you." I'm like, "Okay, back to me." But I say I think you have to remember I'm 57 years old, so I've been with the same man for since I was basically 15. It was a we. So it is hard to cut that off immediately. And he is the father of my kids. So am I working on me? Yeah. I'm working on me. So I don't have a choice now. But yeah,
you
sometimes
know?
they're not so great. Therapists, I haven't found too many that have been, very helpful for me. I think of it as like 'cause I tell people I'm a nurse now, like, you let's say you're in a physical therapy session and, they're really maybe a massage and they're working out your muscles and you're exercising. You feel great while you're there. And then you go home, you're like, "Oh, I hurt again. It's back."
Mhm.
A 30-minute sit kinda is that how it is when I'm in therapy. I feel great and they're motivating me, and then I go home and the next day I'm like, "Darn, I'm sad again." Doesn't always last. Yeah.
Well, what you said something there, it made me in my head, I visualized, because you said you guys were together so long and you were a "we," and it's almost like when somebody loses a half of their arm in a shark attack, you know? And it's like, they say that you feel like your arm is still there, but it's not,
Yeah, phantom
you know?
pain. Yeah,
Phantom pain,
Yeah.
and then, you have to get um, what do you call it? The prosthetic, you
Yes.
know? So,
The other
actually,
thing I don't like is when people say to me, they compare me to a widow. And I'm like, that's not how it feels. Not that I've ever been widowed, but I tell people, your husband died telling you he loves you. My husband left telling me he hates me, that I'm a horrible person. He even went so far to tell me that his girlfriend is way hotter than me. And so I said, that's why d- widowed women don't necessarily lose their self confidence and their self worth when their spouse dies.
they lose their best friend.
Yes, they lose their best friend. The person's dead. They're sad.
Mhm.
But I lost myself in this. He took it from me.
Right.
I gave it to him. Yeah, and I think that's why it's hard. It's not comparable to, it's the same sadness maybe of a widow spouse, but it's not, you're not moving on in the same way. Nobody brings you a casserole.
That's right.
Nobody has a, I don't know, what do you say? We didn't have a party, not the you didn't have like a funeral, and
Well,
everybody's
that's the
there,
thing.
everybody's telling you how sorry they are.
The
People
spouse
are
who
actually
dies
telling you,
goes out with honor. The
yes, people
spouse
are
who
telling you
that
the opposite. They're telling you, "You're better off. Good for you." You're like, "Wait a minute. This isn't right. I don't think we should be congratulating me. I did a lot of things wrong." Yeah, they're telling you how great you are. I'm like, "That's not right."
well, for the spouse who, just 2 or 3 days ago, they experienced a bomb drop, and
Yes,
they were told, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you.
yes,
I'm leaving."
yes.
Well, any words of advice?
Um I said, I would really love to sit down with all these women and say, these are the things that you need to do immediately. I would want to tell them to secure your finances because even though he says he's not going to ruin you
Oh,
financially, he
it'll
is.
yeah. Yeah, that'll change.
And it will change. I want to tell them compartmentalize it in your mind. Know that you're going to be doing the right thing and that you are doing the right thing, staying in a healthy life. Um, I want to tell them to support their children. Stay in contact with your support system. Find one. Find one that is strong, that you can cry to, that will believe you, that will help you. That was one of the most beneficial things that I was very lucky with my support system. Very lucky. Um, However, they won't believe me. I didn't believe everybody told me that. I didn't believe them. I was reading book after book after book, still saying, my husband is different. Mine won't do this.
Well, like you said in the beginning, you expect him to call any minute and say, "I made a mistake. I wanna come home," or, "Come home."
Correct. I remember even watching like I don't know if I'm supposed to say the P Diddy thing or all the
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
all the
Yeah.
abused women.
Mhm.
And I remember sitting there one night. It was a long time ago. It wasn't P Diddy. It was somebody else. I don't know. Probably an NFL player. But I said, you know what that woman's thinking this morning when she wakes up? I hope he calls me.
Mhm.
And that guy, and it was a man I was talking to, and he goes, "No, why would you say that? She's not thinking that." And I said, "Yes, she is. She's 100% thinking, I hope he calls me, says he's sorry, and it doesn't happen again." That is exactly what she's thinking. Should she be thinking that? No, but she is.
That's interesting that the objectivity of a man said that because, and apparently they use that term in court, the trauma bonding
Yeah.
with all the victims were trauma bonded, and so the awareness is coming out, you know?
Yes. The whole why didn't she leave
Mhm.
makes me crazy. I
Yep.
mean, like, tell people I was financially stable. I was 54 years old. We had everything.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking I could walk away. It's, they don't because they're terrified. They're terrified about what society will think. They're terrified about what they have to do to put their life back together. They're terrified of being alone.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that terror goes away. It gets better. It gets better, but it never fully goes away.
And you know what? It doesn't happen overnight. For you, it's been, what, 4 years?
Yes.
Okay.
3.5 since the divorce was final, but 4 since I've filed and left him, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm, yes. And I could tell people, on the outside, I look like I'm doing great. Working, I have my own house, I have my own car, I can come and go whenever I want. I tell people I'm totally unsupervised. I am totally unsupervised. But if I could pick, I would go back to the happy marriage with my 2 kids in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
That's the life I wanted. That's the life I worked for, not the live alone by yourself thing. It looks glorious. It does. Can I fly off to Spain tomorrow if I want? Sure. Nobody does that. Nobody. Maybe once, but then you're like, think I'll go to bed at 7 tonight and watch a movie." I'm 57. Yeah. Mhm. No. I wanted the happy life with my husband.
Mhm.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes it so painful with MLC because you don't see it coming and you didn't have a chance to save your marriage or anything, you know? It was just stripped away.
No. Yeah. You get the rug ripped out from under you, and you like you just said, you don't see it coming. Mm-mm. I'll tell you about my bomb drop. We were in the hot tub in the backyard, which we did frequently, and he said to me, "I'm not happy, and I think I wanna move out." And so when people know their exact bomb date, I don't even know my exact date because I didn't even believe him. I just thought he was joking. It was so out of character that I just kinda ignored it. I mean, maybe I went into some kinda shock mode also, I don't know, but I don't I it was so bizarre. The whole thing was my husband never said, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." He flat out said, "I have hate for you."
Mhm.
Mine was very cruel. Um, he said a lot of bad things to me.
Mhm.
And then he never would have done that. Never in a million years would he have said bad things to me. Never.
Right.
He never would have said that, especially in front of people. Never, never. Um, but in the end of the day, my husband never does move out. He never does leave. I'm the one that has to file and leave because it gets so horrible. And then, like I said, he ends up in the marital house until the divorce is final, and then he does finally move, but he doesn't ever move out. He never does what he says. And he did say, "I want divorced a lot. I'm filing on you tomorrow," he'd say. He never did. Mm-mm. I had to do it.
Mm.
Mm,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Stacy, for sharing your story. And I mean, you have really come a long way. I know it's super painful. We can tell it's still super painful. And like you said, the pain never goes away. But you know, there's in life we just have to keep going forward. And you're a role model for your kids, especially your daughter. And she sees that and she can see her strong mom. And like she said, you're thriving.
Thank you. I said the only other thing I'd like to say, I'm an open book now, and I would if anybody does have questions for me, I'm always happy to answer them. I've been through it. Was I perfect? No. But I'm because all of these, stories are so similar, um, I am willing to answer any questions that anybody might have on how to keep moving forward.
Thank you so much. So okay, listeners, you hear that? So put in comments. You can put some questions
Yeah.
for Stacy and we'll come back and I'll send her those questions and we can have a follow-up. Does that sound good? Awesome. Well, I'm gonna sign us off here. Thank you so much today, Stace, for coming forward and sharing all this with everybody. and we will do a follow-up really soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Thank you for joining us today in meeting with Stacy and hearing about her bomb drop that just happened it's been 4 years for her and she's going forward. Um, she continues to see herself as a left behind spouse, which is horribly painful. But I can see that she is moving forward, and like her daughter said, she is really thriving. So that's good. And it's a road that she never wanted to have to go down. It's not the future she had envisioned, like anybody, like any of us going through, being the spouse of somebody in midlife crisis and also being the spouse that's in midlife crisis. Obviously not a future that they had seen. But seriously, Stacy wants to answer any questions. So if you guys can, whatever platform you're on, you can drop comments, like questions in right here below. Just put your questions for Stacy and I'll get those to her in advance. And then we'll have her back for another, for part 2. And you can also put your questions on Facebook or Instagram at MLC Bomb Drop. So just check out Facebook and Instagram. And if you've got a question for Stacy, just say, questions for Stacy. And we'll go from there. Thanks, you guys. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you really soon on another episode of MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. Thanks again, you guys, for tuning in to Midlife Crisis Bomb Drop and Beyond. We have reached nearly 10,000 downloads. We have hundreds of subscribers, if not over 1,000. You guys, forward moving spouses, you are not alone. Left behind spouses, you are not alone. Those in crisis, you are certainly not alone. This is just crazy how epidemic this has become. I have a waiting list now of people from around the world that I'm trying to get to. And if you've been through a midlife crisis or been impacted by someone else's and you want to share your story, I'd love to hear from you. Hang in there, you guys. I will get to all of you. Please reach out to me at mlcbombdrop@gmail.com and visit us on Facebook and Instagram, MLC Bomb Drop. And just remember, your voice matters. Your story could be the one that helps someone else feel seen. It could help someone else feel heard. And it will help somebody else feel understood. You are not alone, no matter where you are in your journey. If the bomb was just dropped, the earthquake just happened, if you are 7 or 8 years in and you're coming out of starting to wake up and awaken to this, you are not alone. It's sad that this is epidemic, but we're here to provide support. So until next time, take care and live authentically each and every day. Thanks again, you guys.